All right, let's dive into one of the most wild and debated parts of the entire Bible, the trumpet judgments in Revelation chapters 8 and 9. Now, you're probably going to want to forget everything you've heard about helicopters and modern warfare. The source material we're digging into today offers a totally different way of looking at it, one that's not about our future, but about the ancient past. Let's see how it all unfolds. So, the first big idea we really have to wrestle with is this. What world is actually ending here? According to this interpretation, it's not the physical planet. I mean, the sources make a good point. If you were around in AD 69, the sky didn't literally get rolled up like some giant scroll. No, the idea here is that Revelation is describing the end of a symbolic world, the end of a whole spiritual and political era. And that world is what the sources call the Old Creation. We're not talking about Genesis here, we're talking about the entire Old Covenant system, the whole shebang, the law, the temple, the priesthood, all of it centered on Jerusalem. This system, the argument goes, actually ran side by side with the early church for about 40 years after Pentecost. It was this strange period of overlap that came to a dramatic final end when the Romans destroyed the temple in AD 70. Okay, so if the trumpets are announcing the end of this Old Covenant world, how exactly do they do it? Well, the source material suggests it's not just random chaos. It's something much more deliberate, a systematic undoing of creation itself. You could almost call it a decreation. And this is where the pattern just jumps off the page. The source maps these trumpet judgments directly onto the days of creation in Genesis. But it's like watching the film in reverse. The judgment on the land and trees, that undoes day 3. The sea getting struck, that reverses day 2. The sun, moon, and stars going dark, a clear reversal of day 4. This isn't a coincidence. It's a highly organized, symbolic takedown of that old order. Yeah, this quote just nails it. The source puts it so plainly. This isn't just random destruction. It's a purposeful judgment where the very foundations of the Old Covenant world are being taken apart, piece by symbolic piece, just like they were once put together back in Genesis. But the symbolism didn't stop there. Oh no. The trumpets are also just packed with these powerful echoes from Israel's own history. The source argues that anyone reading this in the first century would have immediately recognized 2 huge events: the plagues on Egypt and the fall of Jericho. I mean, just look at the parallels to Exodus. They're pretty stunning. The judgments of hail, blood, darkness, locusts. It's a direct callback to the plagues God sent on Egypt. The source says this is completely intentional. In this story, Jerusalem, by rejecting its own Messiah, has basically become the new Egypt, the new oppressor that's now facing God's judgment. And then you've got Jericho. You remember that story, right? 7 priests, 7 trumpets, they march for 7 days, and boom, the walls come tumbling down. Well, the source draws a direct line here. Jericho was the very first city in the Promised Land to be completely destroyed. And now 7 trumpets are announcing the destruction of Jerusalem, the capital city of that very same covenant. The pattern just keeps repeating itself. Okay, now let's get to the 5th trumpet, because this is where everything shifts. The first 4 judgments, they were against the natural world, the land, the sea, the sky. But this 5th trumpet, it unleashes something way, way more sinister. It literally opens a portal to the demonic realm. The vision kicks off with a star, but this isn't just a piece of rock floating in space. The source identifies this fallen star as Satan himself, already thrown down from heaven, already present and active in the world. And here's a super important detail. He is given a key. This power isn't his own, it's permitted. In this view, Jesus, who is the one who holds the ultimate keys of death and Hades, is the one who grants Satan temporary permission to carry out this plan. And the whole purpose of that key? To unlock the abyss, the bottomless pit. This single act opens a gateway, and it unleashes a force of pure spiritual chaos onto the land. So what comes crawling out of that abyss? An army of locusts. But let's be really clear here. The source material says these are not literal insects. This is a demonic host. It's a terrifying, supernatural force unleashed to wage a purely spiritual kind of war. And their appearance is just this horrifying mashup of different symbols. You've got the power of war horses, the authority of crowns, the intelligence of men, the ferocity of lions. This isn't describing an earthly army. It's painting a picture of a complex, multifaceted spiritual force that's designed to do one thing: intimidate and torment. And check out their mission. It's incredibly specific. First, they are not allowed to harm the earth or any of the believers, the ones who have the seal of God. Nope, their target is only the apostates, those who have rejected the new covenant. And second, their goal isn't even to kill them, it's to torment them. This is a massive clue, right? It's not a physical war, it's an assault of pure anguish. So, what is this torment? How does a demonic army cause so much pain without actually killing anyone? Well, according to the source, the answer is hidden in the symbol of their main weapon, the sting of a scorpion. See, the sting isn't physical venom. It's the poison of false teaching. The source argues that all through the Bible, especially in the prophets, a scorpion sting is a metaphor for poisonous, satanic doctrine, ideas that cause spiritual pain, confusion, and deep despair. And the source even identifies a specific historical poison, the Judaizing heresy. This was the teaching that caused so much trouble in the early church. The idea that to be truly saved, you had to follow all the old Jewish laws. It created incredible spiritual turmoil. It made people feel guilty, trapped, and tormented by a law that couldn't save them. That, the source says, was the work of that demonic army from the abyss. So we're left with this really provocative thought. If the trumpets and the abyss and the demonic locusts are all these powerful symbols for the collapse of the Old Covenant world and the spiritual battles of the early church, and if it all wrapped up around AD 70, well, that completely reframes how we read the whole book. It forces us to ask a really tough question. Have we been looking for the wrong things in the wrong time?